The Ruler of Egypt by Louis Ginzberg. Now Joseph reaped the harvest of his virtues, and according to the measure of his merits God granted him reward. The mouth that refused the kiss of unlawful passion, and sin received the kiss of homage from the people. The neck that did not bow itself unto sin was adorned with the gold chain that Pharaoh put upon it. The hands that did not touch sin wore the signet ring that Pharaoh took from his own hand and put upon Joseph's. The body that did not come in contact with sin was arrayed in vestures of byssus. The feet that made no steps in the direction of sin reposed in the royal chariot, and the thoughts that kept themselves undefiled by sin were proclaimed as Wisdom 1:8-3. Joseph was installed in his high position and invested with the insignia of his office with solemn ceremony. The king took off his signet ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in princely apparel, and set a gold crown upon his head, and laid a gold chain about his neck. Then he commanded his servants to make Joseph to ride in his second chariot, which went by the side of the chariot wherein sat the king, and he also made him to ride upon a great and strong horse of the king's horses, and his servants conducted him through the streets of the city of Egypt. Musicians, no less than 1,000 striking cymbals and 1,000 blowing flutes, and 5,000 men with drawn swords gleaming in the air formed the vanguard. 20,000 of the king's grandees girt with gold-embroidered leather belts marched at the right of Joseph, and as many at the left of him. The women and the maidens of the nobility looked out of the windows to gaze upon Joseph's beauty, and they poured down chains upon him, and rings and jewels, that he might but direct his eyes toward them. Yet he did not look up, and as a reward God made him proof against the evil eye, nor has it ever had the power of inflicting harm upon any of his descendants. 185 servants of the king, preceding him and following him, burnt incense upon his path and cassia, and all manner of sweet spices, and strewed myrrh and aloes wherever he went. 20 heralds walked before him, and they proclaimed, "This is the man whom the king bath chosen to be the second after him. All the affairs of state will be administered by him, and whoever resisteth his commands, or refuseth to bow down to the ground before him, he will die the death of the rebel against the king and the king's deputy." Without delay the people prostrated themselves, and they cried, "Long live the king, and long live the deputy of the king." And Joseph, looking down from his horse upon the people and their exultation, exclaimed, his eyes directed heavenward, "The Lord raiseth up the poor out of the dust, and lifteth up the needy from the dunghill. O Lord of hosts, blessed is the man that trusteth in thee." After Joseph, accompanied by Pharaoh's officers and princes, had journeyed through the whole city of Egypt, and viewed all there was therein, he returned to the king on the selfsame day. And the king gave him fields and vineyards as a present, and also 3,000 talents of silver, and 1,000 talents of gold, and onyx stones and bdellium, and many other costly things. The king commanded, moreover, that every Egyptian give Joseph a gift, else he would be put to death. A platform was erected in the open street, and there all deposited their presents, and among the things were many of gold and silver, as well as precious stones, carried thither by the people and also the grandees, for they saw that Joseph enjoyed the favor of the king. Furthermore, Joseph received 100 slaves from Pharaoh, and they were to do all his bidding, and he himself acquired many more, for he resided in a spacious palace. 3 years it took to build it. Special magnificence was lavished upon the hall of state, which was his audience chamber, and upon the throne fashioned of gold and silver and inlaid with precious stones, whereon there was a representation of the whole land of Egypt and of the river Nile. And as Joseph multiplied in riches, so he increased also in wisdom, for God added to his wisdom that all might love and honor him. Pharaoh called him Zaphanath-Paneah, he who can reveal secret things with ease, and rejoiceth the heart of man therewith. Each letter of the name Zaphanath-Paneah has a meaning too. The first Zad stands for Zopheh, seer, P for Pode, redeemer, Nun for Nabai, prophet, Tor for Tomek, supporter, P for Poter, interpreter of dreams, Ain for Aram, clever, Nun for Naban, discreet, and Het for Hakam, wise. 187. The name of Joseph's wife pointed to her history in the same way. Asenath was the daughter of Dinah and Hammer, but she was abandoned at the borders of Egypt, only that people might know who she was. Jacob engraved the story of her parentage and her birth upon a gold plate fastened around her neck. The day on which Asenath was exposed, Potiphar went walking with his servants near the city wall, and they heard the voice of a child. At the captain's bidding they brought the baby to him, and when he read her history from the gold plate, he determined to adopt her. He took her home with him and raised her as his daughter. The Aleph in Asenath stands for On, where Potiphar was priest, the Samek for Setera, hidden, for she was kept concealed on account of her extraordinary beauty, the Nun for Nohemet, for she wept and entreated that she might be delivered from the house of the heathen Potiphar. and the Tor for Tamar, the perfect one, on account of her pious, perfect deeds. 188. Asenath had saved Joseph's life while she was still an infant in arms. When Joseph was accused of immoral conduct by Potiphar's wife and the other women, and his master was on the point of having him hanged, Asenath approached her foster father, and she assured him under oath that the charge against Joseph was false. Then spake God, As thou livest, because thou didst try to defend Joseph, thou shalt be the woman to bear the tribes that he is appointed to beget. 189. Asenath bore him 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, during the 7 years of plenty, for in the time of famine Joseph refrained from all indulgence in the pleasures of life. 190. They were bred in chastity and fear of God by their father. And they were wise, and well instructed in all knowledge and in the affairs of state, so that they became the favourites of the court, and were educated with the royal princes. Before the famine broke over the land, Joseph found an opportunity of rendering the king a great service. He equipped an army of 4,600 men, providing all the soldiers with shields and spears and bucklers and helmets and slings. With this army, and aided by the servants and officers of the king, and by the people of Egypt, he carried on a war with Tarshish in the 1st year after his appointment as viceroy. The people of Tarshish had invaded the territory of the Ishmaelites, and the latter, few in number at that time, were sore pressed, and applied to the king of Egypt for help against their enemies. At the head of his host of heroes, Joseph marched to the land of Havilah, where he was joined by the Ishmaelites, and with united forces they fought against the people of Tarshish, routed them utterly, settled their land with the Ishmaelites, while the defeated men took refuge with their brethren in Javan. Joseph and his army returned to Egypt, and not a man had they lost. In a little while Joseph's prophecy was confirmed. That year and the 6 following years were years of plenty, as he had foretold. The harvest was so ample that a single ear produced 2 heaps of grain. 192, and Joseph made circumspect arrangements to provide abundantly for the years of famine. He gathered up all the grain, and in the city situated in the middle of each district, he laid up the produce from round about, and had ashes and earth strewn on the garnered food from the very soil on which it had been grown. 193. Also he preserved the grain in the ear. All these being precautions taken to guard against rot and mildew. The inhabitants of Egypt also tried, on their own account, to put aside a portion of the superabundant harvest of the 7 fruitful years against the need of the future. But when the grievous time of dearth came, and they went to their storehouses to bring forth the treasured grain, behold, it had rotted, and become unfit for food. 19. For the famine broke in upon the people with such suddenness that the bread gave out unexpectedly as they sat at their tables. They had not even a bite of bran bread. Thus they were driven to apply to Joseph and beseech his help, and he admonished them, saying, Give up your allegiance to your deceitful idols, and say, Blessed is he who giveth bread unto all flesh. But they refused to deny their lying gods, and they betook themselves to Pharaoh, only to be told by him, Go unto Joseph, what he saith to you do. For this Pharaoh was rewarded. God granted him long life and a long reign, until he became arrogant, and well-merited punishment overtook him. 195. When the Egyptians approached Joseph with the petition for bread, he spoke, saying, I give no food to the uncircumcised. Go hence and circumcise yourselves, and then return hither. They entered the presence of Pharaoh, and complained to him regarding Joseph, but he said as before, Go unto Joseph. And they replied, We come from Joseph, and he hath spoken roughly unto us, saying, Go hence and circumcise yourselves. We warned thee in the beginning that he is a Hebrew, and would treat us in such wise. Pharaoh said to them, O ye fools, did he not prophesy through the Holy Spirit and proclaim to the whole world that there would come 7 years of plenty to be followed by 7 years of dearth? Why did you not save the yield of 1 or 2 years against the day of your need? Weeping, they made reply, The grain that we put aside during the good years hath rotted. Pharaoh, have ye nothing over of the flour of yesterday? The Egyptians, the very bread in the basket rotted. Pharaoh, why? The Egyptians, because Joseph willed thus. Pharaoh, O ye fools, if his word hath power over the grain, making it to rot when he desireth it to rot, then also must we die, if so be his wish concerning us. Go therefore unto him, and do as he bids you. 196.